So, as always, leave it up to the folks on BPM Sports to give us the biggest, boldest, and juiciest scoops on the market when it comes to, of course, the Montreal Canadiens. This scoop comes to us via the form of Marc-Olivier Boisdan's Twitter account. He is, of course, a collaborator for BPM Sports, 27,000 followers, and in talking to a few Montreal Canadiens-related people, he ended up making this Twitter post yesterday that kinda went viral. In essence, he may have just revealed the Montreal Canadiens draft preference order. Let's go out there and read the tweet here. Marc-Olivier Boisdan says, Après avoir rediscuté aujourd'hui avec ma source bien au fait du dossier, celle qui m'avait parlé... Okay, no, we're not going to do that. Sorry, my French kind of stinks. It's been... How long has it been? 6 years since I had French in high school? I did take 5 years of it, but man... Yeah, let's translate this to English because, quite frankly, I don't even know what I just said. I just read it off the script here. Translated via the Google machine, Baudouin says this, after having discussed again today with my source, who is well aware of the matter, the one who told me about the strong interest of the Canadiens in Beckett-Senecki at the beginning of May, information which was subsequently confirmed, the Montreal Canadiens have started to reduce their list of draft candidates at number 5. Number 1, Ivan Demidov. Number 2, Caden Lindstrom, and number 3, you have 2 names, Zeev Buyam and Beckett-Senecki. T.J. Ginla would therefore not be in the race, quote-unquote, at the time of writing this tweet. Obviously, the Montreal Canadiens will have other meetings in the war room, and a scout might push hard for another player, but for now, it seems to be heading this way. And of course, things can change. I mean, right now it's June 20th, 21st. This tweet was made on the 20th, and the draft is about a week from now. So there is a lot of leeway for the Montreal Canadiens' doors to open up to other guys. But having this revealed as the potential list, quote-unquote, of guys the Montreal Canadiens can get, I, for one, am not really too surprised about the first 2 names. Demidov and Caden Lindstrom have been taking up most of the Montreal Canadiens fanbase's minds as draft-eligible prospects the past few weeks, especially with all the great press about Ivan Demidov coming out the past few weeks. The guy is a lot bigger than maybe some of the North American scouts could have thought. He speaks very good English, and it seems like his intent is to play in the NHL as soon as he can. Not to mention the fact that he is the guy who, if you want to talk about a pure offensive potential ceiling, may be one of the only names in this draft that has the potential to rival Macklin Celebrini. Not saying it's guaranteed, but it's definitely there, the potential for that. And so for Ivan Demidov to be the number 1 guy on the Canadiens list, we've been kind of seeing more and more of his name pop up in Canadiens discourse and the radio and TV and stuff, so it's not surprising here if the Canadiens get a guy like Demidov, a guy who can make beautiful plays. You saw that video of him testing out that warrior stick on the ice? The way he pitter-patters when he dekes the puck back and forth, it's just so beautiful. He is one of the most graceful offensive contributors, and his puck skills are elite. They are the elitist of the elite. His creativity is off the charts, just thinking about what this guy could do when paired with a Suzuki or a Caulfield on the power play. Man, the options open themselves up. This guy might already be a better passer and a better offensive mind than some of those Canadiens names that we had just mentioned. Like, that just indicates the amount of swagger and the grace that Ivan Demidov is able to create offense with. It's just, of course, he is not the number 1 guy that is Macklin Celebrini. Celebrini is kind of all over the place. He can do everything, and he is a bona fide center with no weakness who has as well a very high offensive ceiling. But of course, Celebrini's going to be taken number 1. Going over to the second name, Caden Lindstrom, he is not a surprise for the Canadiens to want in this 5th overall spot too. There were some extra comments actually that Lindstrom made about the Montreal Canadiens once more. We can talk more about that in a separate video. In this video though, I just wanted to focus more so on the profile. Everything to say about Caden Lindstrom we have already said. He's a big dude, he's a skilled dude, he's a goal-scoring dude, he's a power forward dude. If you think about discount Eric Lindros, you kind of have what Caden Lindstrom is projecting to be, and when it comes to big dudes like that, you really can't put a ceiling on how far they can go. I get it, you know, I said discount Lindros, like, It's a little different there because Lindros was like one of the generational talents in Canadian hockey history, but still, Caden Lindstrom is right in that same profile, cut from the same cloth. And if you wanted to talk about the triplet towers line, excuse me, not twin towers, triplet towers, you've got the Lindstroms, you've got the Ducks, you've got the Slafkovskys. These three guys could play some very domineering hockey if they were to be taken and put on the same line. Now, when it comes to the third and fourth names that are listed here as Canadiens targets at 5th overall, Zeev Buium to me is super interesting. We had seen the Montreal Canadiens slowly creep into that conversation as to whether or not they can take a defenseman in the 2024 draft. We had talked about Sam Dickinson, we had talked about Zeev Buium. Dickinson is the weird one because they took him out to dinner, I believe. But for Zeev Buium, this guy was an offensive dynamo in the NCAA while also being a very solid puck-moving transition defender. You talk about defensemen who fit that modern mold of guys that can skate, who are not afraid to make some fancy moves, and who can just get by other players with the puck. Zeev Buium does all of that, and he produces a heck of a lot of points too. It is interesting to me that the Canadiens seem to be going towards this trend where they really do value offensive potential, because for Zeev, you can say that he may not be like the number one offensive defenseman in this draft. I'd say Zayne Parekh has my vote for that. But Parekh has a lot of issues off the puck, and when he doesn't have it, it's a little bit awkward with him. So for Zeev Buium, who is a lot more complete, I would say, but not as offensively gifted, it would make sense in my mind why the Canadiens are going for him rather than some of the others. Now, when it comes to Beckett-Sinecki, the other guy, he's a bigger dude, a lot bigger than some of the other Montreal Canadiens forwards that are on the team right now. But Beckett-Sinecki's interesting because he plays a lot like a small guy. He's 6'2", 181, but he has the hands of somebody who's 5'8", 5'9". He's a really strange player in that you rarely see guys who are this big have this kind of a skill set. It's like he grew out of the skill set that he has, oddly enough. So, like Caden Lindstrom, there's a very unique profile here. Traits that you normally don't see meshed together all too well. And Beckett-Sinecki, he's one of these guys where if he goes a lot higher on draft day than we anticipate, I don't know if it actually would be too surprising, considering the ceiling and considering the late rise that he seems to have had in a lot of these draft rankings. Now, for Montreal to be evaluating these four guys the most, it guarantees that they'll get one of them, because of course, you're going to say Macklin Celebrini is going to go first overall. That leaves 1 out of 4 of these final guys that will inevitably be available, at least one. So if number 2 goes Demidov, and number 3 is Lindstrom, and then number 4 is like Beckett-Sinecki or something, then automatically, boom, the Canadiens will draft Zeev Buium. They have options here. And it is in order, I would say. Demidov is the number 1 target for Montreal, according to this tweet. If you wanted to say that this tweet is gospel, that's not surprising. I do question, however, how far Demidov will drop in this year's draft, considering the conversations about defensemen. I know Corey Pronman had his list the other day that had 1 Macklin Celebrini and then 4 defensemen right after. It'd be crazy if that ended up happening, but either way, this draft is a really big mixed bag of names after number 1. From like number 2 to, let's say, 15 overall, honestly. You could toss out a few names, not even talking about the Carter Yakimchuks, the Dickinsons, the Zayne Pareks, and then the TJ Ginlas, of course. His name was linked to the Montreal Canadiens for such a long while. And then it was revealed here in this tweet, again, of course, if you wanted to say this tweet is 100% factual, that the Canadiens actually don't have TJ Ginla on their radar for number 5 heading into next week. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about the Montreal Canadiens being in this spot? They have their list, at least according to Marc-Olivier Baudin. Do you agree with this assessment? Do you think it's the right way to go? Do you not care about names 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, as long as you get one of Demidov or Lindstrom? Those two seem to be the main guys that Canadiens fans have been talking about the most, with a smaller emphasis, I would say, on TJ Ginla, and then the earlier names like Berkly, Catton. That guy's name is nowhere to be found when talking about Montreal Canadiens' potential picks at number 5 anymore. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about all this stuff? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.